Washington State, Member of Congress, Democrat Adam Smith. Florida, Member of Congress, Republican Mike Herodopoulos. It's good to have you both. So first, anybody think it ends tomorrow?
No.
No? No, you either?
I hope so, but
Mike?
we'll have to see tomorrow. I'm here.
Adam, first of all, any questions with my analysis?
No, I think that's spot on.
Anything I said piss you off?
It points up one big point, and that is how President Trump is running this government in an unprecedented partisan consolidation of power way. And that's one of the big issues for us in terms of opening up the government. So we vote to continue funding the government. Trump ignores it. I mean, he was cutting programs and firing people that had been appropriated by Congress long before this government shutdown in violation of the law. So why would we vote for another budget so he can just ignore whatever we vote for? So it's one of the big issues.
Because it's your job.
Why the shutdowns happen.
Because it's your job, Adam. Your job is to pass budgets.
No. It is not my job to vote to allow Donald Trump to continue to abuse his power in the way he runs the federal government. That is not my job. I don't have to vote yes on something. I get to choose whether a yes or a no vote is in the best interests of my constituents. That's my job.
Yes. However, are you suggesting that your job is to not act?
I am suggesting that it is my job in this instance, and there's a bunch of other issues here, but one big issue is on how President Trump has chosen to ignore the law when it comes to spending money, and specifically to punish constituents who don't support him. Forget whether or not it's a policy issue. He's making it very clear. He is going to use his power as president to leverage your vote and not pay attention to the appropriations bills that are passed. He's done it over and over and over again. So if I, as a member of Congress, then vote for those appropriations bills to simply give Trump the ability to once again ignore it without changing the law, which we can do and which is in the Democratic proposal, to change the law to restrict President Trump's ability to do that, I think that's the right vote. And I stand by
Mike,
that.
I know, Mike, a little bit of it is whataboutism, but if you change the R and the Ds and they put out on government websites and they put out as the default email signature, Republicans suck. That's why this is happening right now. You guys would have gone crazy, but not a peep about the Trump administration doing this. And I know it's not the biggest violation of the Hatch Act you've ever heard of, but you've also never seen anybody blatantly put out messaging on government websites and emails the way they're doing right now. Fair point?
Well, yeah, it's one of the things that it's a sideline issue. I think Adam and I would agree the best thing for the United States, I hope, is to keep the government open. The people who are the victims of this whole situation are not politicians. They're the people who rely on government services. They're government workers that are now furloughed. And as you know, we talked about it last week, Chris. We in the House of Representatives, we passed the budget. We sent it over to the Senate. And given the history of Chuck Schumer, who said that shutting down the government is idiocy, he's the only one at this point really shutting down the government. I think we should negotiate on a lot of things, including health care, as we move forward. But at this point, let's keep the government open. The House voted to do so. Of course, the Democrats, with the exception of one, voted to close down the government. I don't think that's a good idea. As you and I talked about before again, Chris, the idea is, how do we keep some economic momentum going by shutting down the government? It costs a lot of money to close. It costs a lot of money to open back up. It's just politics.
Same way
and
when
that's
you
why
guys,
I got back
same
in
way,
politics.
Mike, when you guys did it. Same, but Republicans have done the same thing. So the
Chris,
idea,
I can't speak what happened. I can't speak what happened.
No,
in the
I know,
past.
Mike.
I'm a
I'm
new
not
member,
asking you to own it. I'm just saying,
we're looking forward on this. Yeah.
I get it. I get it. But as a new member, this is my question to you, okay? I understand why you don't want to answer the first question that I asked you. I get it. I understand the dynamic. However, this show is a little different. These are violations of the Hatch Act, okay? It is a bad look to use government resources to push political propaganda. Do you not agree with that statement?
Well, I think without doubt that we've seen this weaponization happen before. I'm sure if I did a little bit of homework tonight, I can find some examples.
Mike,
but
never,
to your point tonight,
never an automated message on emails, never saying the radical right on a government website. I'm telling you, we did the homework. And I get why you don't want to say anything, Mike, but don't you think that's part of the problem, that you're afraid to say what you would absolutely say if you switch the R and the D?
Well, I think Adam's done enough talking on that one. But my sense is let's open the government back up. It's that easy. It's that easy.
I get it.
Well,
Adam,
Chris,
let me ask you something. Do you?
Sure.
You can respond to that, but I also want to. You heard me off the top. I think you guys are right in fighting the right fight. I don't think switching the name of the bill makes the reality of the bill any different. I'm okay with people getting tax cuts. That's fine. That's your guys' choices. It's the president's choice. But don't call it a middle-class tax cut if they're not who benefits most from the bill and you're paying for it off their backs. I think that's the right fight for you guys to have. But I think this shutdown suckered you guys in, and that's why he's now able to do all of these sneaky things that he's doing.
No, first of all, Chris, 2 big points. One, he's been doing these sneaky things ever since he got sworn in. I mean, how many executive orders did he sign on the very first day? The notion that somehow the shutdown has unleashed all these bad things that President Trump is doing. How many hundreds of thousands of federal employees has he fired? How many hundreds of billions of dollars in appropriated programs has he frozen or shut down? Shut down the Department of Education, shut down USAID, fired countless people at the Department of Defense because they weren't personally loyal enough to him, used the Justice Department to pursue his political enemies while pardoning all of his political friends. I mean, come on. He's been doing this for 9 months, all right? We weren't suckered into anything. He started it from the moment that he got elected and moved it in that direction. So that's number one. Number two, here's the reality of the situation. Because of the Senate rules, the Republicans, for the first time this whole year, need Democratic votes to move forward with their agenda.
To get it done.
We're supposed to just say, oh, gosh, if you need our votes, even though you're not going to negotiate with us, you're not going to give us anything, Trump is going to continue to run the government, as you just showed, in the most partisan, political, personal power grab way in the history of this country. Yeah, okay, we'll vote for that because it's inconvenient not to.
No, listen, I get it. No, I'm not asking you to do that. I am asking this, though, Adam.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what is reasonable. Yes, they're playing games with illegal versus lawful and who gets what services. And even Republicans, Mike, you know this, even though you weren't here for it. Republicans were in favor of the reimbursements to states. It was about upping it to 90%. Everybody knows you've got a moral and legal imperative to give emergency services to people, whether they're here legally or not. Republicans have warm blood in their veins as well. What I'm saying, Adam, is you guys can give on that. The reimbursement rate could come back down to what it used to be. Asylees may be here lawfully, but it's kind of fugazi because 90% of them don't get asylum. So it's a runaround that allows them to get treated like they're lawful when they're not. Why don't you give on that?
Sure, and that's fine. I give on that, but you're missing the bigger point here. Okay, whatever tiny little percentage of the people who benefit from the Affordable Care Act might be here because of the asylum process that I've said many times I didn't agree with, that Joe Biden did. It was way too wide and way too broad. Whatever tiny little percentage of that, you've got millions of other Americans who are going to lose health care as a result of that, number one. And number two, I got to keep coming back to, if we vote in favor of the Republican budget, to continue the Republican budget, we are voting in favor of an unprecedented abuse of power that we believe passionately has been damaging to the country. Now, if Republicans disagree, fine. Then you vote the way you want to vote. We'll vote the way we want to vote. And also, the Senate has a Democratic plan to keep the government open. Okay, why don't Republicans vote for that if they're so hell-bent to keep the government open? We put a plan on the table.
What do you
they don't like it, and they're voting no on that.
What do you hear, Mike, about what's happening in the Senate? I know you guys are both in the House, and I respect that. But, Mike, you can respond to it. But what do you think that there's any room for movement anytime soon from what you hear about your colleagues on the Senate side?
Well, let's just be clear. Adam's, I think, mixing a couple things up here. One is that we're talking about a 7-week stopgap measure. During the Biden administration, you know this, Chris, we talked about it last week, 13 times the Democrats use this as a stopgap to get to the real negotiations that are going to take place at the end of November. That's part one. Part two is the ransom for us to open the government up is $1.5 trillion. That's the amount of money that they want to put in spending for us to open up the government. So don't act like it's some
$300 billion. But yes.
Adam, I let you talk. You need to let me talk.
I'll let him correct it. Go ahead, Mike.
So with that in mind, you're talking about going back and spending money on USAID, and we all heard about that stuff. We talked about NPR and those PBS programs. We decided to cut those. And the other programs were just the idea where we voted on them. That wasn't Trump acting unilaterally. We rescinded $9 billion. And all we're asking them to do is to go back to the March agreement that we made with Chuck Schumer. And for the next 7 weeks, we'll have the government open. And then the debate that Adam and I are going to have long term is, what about those health care programs? That's the debate that really matters. And that's what we should have in November instead of penalizing federal workers and shutting down the government as we are right now.
I got to tell you something, Adam. I want you to respond to that, and this isn't relevant to you guys. I'm going to give you the last word, Adam, and I appreciate you both. I hope Chuck knows what he's doing, Schumer. You know, I grew up with him, you know, as a member of the House and a Senate. You know, he's New York. But this, I believe, is the open door for AOC to run for his seat, because he owns this in a bad way right now. I know that that's not about you guys, but I know. What is your real dollar amount if it's not 1.7 trillion?
Fair enough. The point that made me crazy was the notion that, oh, Congress approved what Trump is doing. He hasn't done anything unusual. Well, first of all, even the $9 billion you're talking about he cut it long before we voted on it one way or the other, which is illegal.
Right.
But second of all, he cut all manner of other programs that we've never voted on. He cut transportation programs. He cut energy programs. He cut hundreds of thousands of jobs. He got rid of the Department of Education. He has violated what we used to think of as the law constantly. And that's the opportunity we have in front of us. Okay, we can keep it going for 7 weeks. And then what? All right? If we don't fundamentally change Trump's abuse of power, then why are we voting for a budget that is going to be completely under his control and outside the rule of law and the Constitution? I mean, it's fair for Republicans to say they're fine with all of that and they want to vote for it. I don't think it's fair for them to say somehow we have to vote for that.
Yeah, I get it. I'm just saying I think the middle ground is you figure out what you can live with to keep it open so people don't pay the price, and then you sue.
Well, let's talk
on
then.
The other
let's
stuff.
negotiate.
If it's illegal,
Mike
what he's
Johnson's
doing.
Position right now is we're not going to negotiate. You know, you vote for this, or we're just going to refuse.
It's going to happen. It's going to start on the Senate side, and then it's going to go to reconciliation again for you guys. But look, this has been very helpful to my audience. There's a lot of critical thinkers, and I appreciate it. Adam Smith, I appreciate you. I thought you were having a seizure there for a second with the hands. I was ready. I'm training as a first responder.
I'm an emotive person. I respond.
I like it. I like it. You must have some Italian blood in there somewhere. Somewhere there's an Italian in you somewhere, Adam Smith. Yes. And Mr. Herodopoulos, you're always welcome here. Thank you for making the case. We don't have to agree to treat each other with respect, and I respect you both for that. All right, we'll meet again because it ain't going to end anytime soon.